Say we're asked to solve 2 raised to the power of x equals to 1 over 8. This is an exponential equation in which one side of the equation is written as a fraction. And in this tutorial, we'll be seeing 3 examples like this. Now, the first step in solving this type of equation is to rewrite the fraction that we have here as a power of 8. And to do that, we're going to need an important result. And here it is. For any non-zero number a, the following result will always be true. 1 over a equals to a raised to the power of negative 1. Now, if you hadn't seen this result before, make a note of it now. You'll definitely need it when solving exponential equations. And so using this result, we can rewrite 1 over 8 as 8 raised to the power of negative 1. So our equation becomes 2 to the power of x equals to 8 raised to the power of negative 1. Now that that's done, this exponential equation is a little bit more approachable. Indeed, on the left-hand side we have a power of 2, and on the right-hand side we have a power of 8. So to solve this, we're going to rewrite this 8 as a power of 2. And since 8 equals to 2 times 2 times 2, which equals to 2 to the power of 3, we can rewrite this equation as 2 to the power of x equals to 2 to the power of 3, in parentheses, raised to the power of negative 1. And now these powers, 3 and negative 1, need to be multiplied together, which leads us to 2 to the power of x equals to 2 to the power of 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. And now that both sides of this equation are written as powers of the same base, we can get rid of the base altogether to write x equals to negative 3. And that's the final answer. Let's look at another example. Say we have to solve 3 raised to the power of x plus 2 equals to 1 over 81. Well, again, our first step is to rewrite the right-hand side as a power of the denominator, in this case 81. And to do that, we use the result that we boxed in red here. So that would be 3 raised to the power of x plus 2 equals to 81 raised to the power of negative 1. Now that that's done, we solve this exponential equation. And for that, let's go ahead and try to rewrite this base 81 as a power of the smaller base 3. Well, let's see. We know that 81 equals to 9 squared, and we also know that 9 equals to 3 squared. So combining these two results, we can say that 81 equals to 9 squared, which equals to 3 squared squared. And 3 squared squared, well, that becomes 3 to the power of 2 times 2, which is 3 to the power of 4. Using the fact that 81 equals to 3 to the power of 4, we can rewrite our equation as 3 to the power of x plus 2 equals to 3 to the power of 4, all of which is raised to the power of negative 1. The power of 4 multiplies with the power of negative 1, which leads to 3 to the power of x plus 2 equals to 3 to the power of 4 times negative 1, which is negative 4. Now that both sides of this equation are written as powers of the same base, we can get rid of the base altogether and state that x plus 2 must equal to negative 4. Now subtracting 2 from each side of this equation leads to the final answer. That's x equals to negative 4 minus 2, which is negative 6. And we're done. Let's look at one last example. Say we have to solve 4 raised to the power of 2x equals to 1 over 64. Well, again, our first step is to rewrite the right-hand side of this equation as a power of the denominator here, that's 64. And we do that using the result that we had boxed in red here, which leads us to 4 raised to the power of 2x equals to 64 raised to the power of negative 1. Now that that's done, we can see that on the left-hand side the base is 4, and on the right-hand side the base is 64. So let's go ahead and try and write the bigger base, that's 64, as a power of the smaller base, that's 4. And if we don't see what it is right away, we can always just go ahead and write the powers of 4. We have 4 to the power of 1, which is 4. We have 4 to the power of 2, which is 16. So that's 4 to the power of 1, 4 to the power of 2. And if we multiply 16 by 4 again, we'll get the next power. And 16 times 4 equals to 64. So the power that we're after is 4 to the power of 3. Indeed, 4 to the power of 3 equals to 64. Using that result, we can rewrite our equation as 4 raised to the power of 2x equals to 4 to the power of 3 raised to the power of negative 1. Multiplying this power of 3 with this power of negative 1 leads us to 4 raised to the power of 2x equals to 4 to the power of 3 times negative 1, which is negative 3. Now that both sides of the equation are written as a power of the same base, we can get rid of the base altogether and write 2x equals to negative 3. Finally, dividing both sides of this equation by 2, we get the final answer. X is equal to negative 3 over 2, which we could also write as a decimal as negative 1.5. And there we have it. And so that's how we can solve simple exponential equations involving fractions. And that's it for this tutorial.